Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is Matthew. Once again, thank you, everybody, for joining me for another episode. We are returning to the My Favorite Tag Team Tournament. We are finally in round 4. As you guys remember, in round 3, we finally merged all 4 lines together into one. And we saw a lot of my favorite tag teams removed from competition. Sad day as we merged those 16 tag teams. But we're finally down to the last 8 tag teams, and we're getting close. What I'm finding curious in these videos is not so much my favorite tag team per se, as much as my favorite tag team figures. And just like I keep saying a numerous amount of times in my videos, these tournaments are as much about the figures as anything else. So even though I'm calling it my favorite tag team tournament, it's still a figure tournament nonetheless. So just kind of recap our winners from round 3 and just kind of give an idea of who we're looking at, who's going to be participating here in round 4. So in round 3, first video, round 3, we saw the US Galoob version of the Barry and Sid, one half of the Four Horsemen, defeat Rhythm and Blues, which was the LJN tag team combination. And again, that LJN of Rhythm and Blues, I honestly believe that could have been, if not the top, number 1 seed, at least one of the bottom 4 teams. And to be eliminated in round 3 was a gut wrencher. The Heart Foundation Customs LJN figures defeated Demolition from Hasbro. That was a 3-man Hasbro tag team. The Mega Powers LJN defeated Legion of Doom Hasbro. The Barry and Sid LJN 2-ups defeated the Steiner Brothers, which were the Hasbro Customs. Again, another tag team I figured which would be in the bottom 4 or so. Didn't make it out of round 3. The next video, the conclusion of round 3, we saw the Killer Bees defeating the Mega Maniacs LJN version customs. The High Flyers from Remco defeated the entrance gear of Dudes with Attitude, Lex Luger and Sting from Galoob Series 2. And the British Bulldogs LJN Customs, that was the Robert Jackson custom figures, defeated the Nasty Boy Customs. That was the Hasbro from Denver Moore. One of my absolute favorite figures. Again, favorites of mine, not only for the figures, but the actual characters themselves. Didn't make it out of round 3. A complete shocker. The last one featured the Mega Maniacs from Hasbro Customs, defeating the Galoob Sid and Barry UK exclusives. Kind of funny about that one is I always said I didn't think any Sid and Barry tag team would lose unless it was to another Sid and Barry tag team. So seeing them eliminated from competition by the Mega Maniac Hasbros is something to consider moving forward in this tournament. Or we could just simply look at it as, hey, we already had 2 Sid and Barry tag teams in round 4. Did we need a third? That shouldn't have played a role. I think it did. Is it going to really impact my decision in rounds 4, 5, 6? I don't know. We shall see. So, that does leave us, as I said, with 8 tag teams remaining. And so that's going to give us 4 matchups for round 4. And it should only be one video. So it'll probably still hover around a 30-minute video nonetheless. And 4 Horsemen, Sid and Barry. And I believe this is the LJN version. So go figure that they would start us off. And they are squaring off against the Brett and Jim Customs. Alright. Next on the itinerary, next up on the list are the Killer Bees as they square off against nobody. So, Killer Bees squaring off against the High Flyers. Alright. And then we've got the Mega Maniacs from Hasbro. And they square off against the British Bulldogs LJN. Last matchup is going to feature the Sid and Barry US Galoob as they take on the LJN Mega Powers. Alright. So, I am going to pause the video here. I'm going to pull those tag teams. And for you guys, I will be back in a split second. Alright, the tag teams have been pulled. And, this is kind of, it's got me kind of anxious right now. There are two tag teams here. I've said before that I felt like two tag teams in particular, the Heart Foundation and the Mega Powers, I kind of felt like those were going to be my two tag teams, LJN right at the end in the finals. And both of those tag teams are squaring off against versions of the Sid and Barry, either the actual Galoobs or the LJN Galoob 2-ups. So it's going to be interesting how I make my decision. You guys already know how much I've coveted the Sid and Barry tag team throughout this entire tournament. Do I wipe out both tag teams? Do both tag teams move forward and still bring that realization or that dream? Does that dream still materialize? And do they proceed to round 5? I don't know. I can never make my decision until I actually make these videos, but man, it's going to be one of the toughest calls once I get to those matches. Does one decision kind of impact my decision with the next battle? I think it might, but we'll see. But in the meantime, our first battle is going to feature Sid and Barry LJN as they do battle against the Heart Foundation. So one half of what I've been classifying as the Four Horsemen going against two of LJN's best figures. So we'll start it off with the Heart Foundation. Something I didn't even realize until someone actually pointed it out to me. In the last couple rounds, the Heart Foundation has actually eliminated Demolition on back-to-back occasions. First with the LJN Demolition, and then the 3-team Hasbro. So I thought that was pretty interesting. No opportunity for that to happen this time around, but just thought that was pretty special. So I've already said that the Jim Neidhart as an original LJN is in my top 10 of most perfect wrestling action figures among the LJN line. One of the best fighting poses. Yeah, I put Bret Hart up there. 12, 13, wherever I listed him. But he is strictly a punch-only guy. I put him up there for nostalgia because of what the character himself meant to me as a young fan and everything. And his history and, just as a legendary wrestler. But as far as, if I didn't know anything about this character and I looked at the actual action figure itself, it would be a mid-tier figure for me. I really wouldn't think too highly of it. The actual customization itself is, again, among the elite figures of the collection. Absolutely fantastic. The jacket accessory really puts this figure over the top. And I will keep saying it every time I talk about these figures. I put these together because I thought they would win my tournament, hands down, no competition. But we've seen how difficult it has been with so many of my battles, and how difficult it's going to be even with this matchup here. Do I necessarily put two fantastic figures? These are not the Galoob figures you would have grown up with. And I kind of brought it up, I guess, in round 1 or something, maybe round 2, I forget when. But I kind of thought about it. And And I said, well, what happens if the four horsemen of, Barry and Sid, LJN, and this same exact tag team, US version, Galoob, ended up in the finals? How would I choose between them? Theoretically, the fact that they're rubber, they're a little bit movable pieces, larger pieces, just a whole lot more fun to work with. Theoretically, I would say that these would be the pieces to beat, the ones I would enjoy the most. But the history, the originality of the hardened, I don't know what the Galoob figures are made out of. I always call it hard rubber or something, hard plastic, but I really don't know the material that it's made from. With that being said, though, so if I were to say, okay, maybe I would prefer the small 4-inch Galoob figures because of that originality, would that mean that if I would choose them over these, should I automatically push the Heart Foundation past the LJNs? I've already pushed the Killer Bees past the Heart Foundation, the original Heart Foundation, back in round 1 because I knew the customs would defeat the original Heart Foundation. So why would I not do the same if that's my thinking? But, opinions always change. I might say, yeah, Galoob right now 100%. And in 5 minutes from now, I could be sitting there having these right in front of me and be like, no, you know what? I'm going to go at the LGN. No question about it. In terms of playability, I'm sorry, but neither Heart Foundation figure even comes remotely close to matching up to either of these figures. If these were original LJN figures, both of them would easily be in the top 10. So Sid Vicious, I think Barry Windham might actually kick Greg Valentine out of the top five. In fact, I think Sid Vicious would probably kick him out of the top 5, and Barry Windham would probably be number 6. Maybe Greg Valentine would fall to like number 7 or 8 or something. But I don't know how I'd list it. It's just too tough a call. Because of history of what I know about Bret Hart, and at the end of the day, I'm sorry, Jim. The figure is great, but as far as a wrestler, Jim Neidhart was so and so. Someone that you didn't despise, but someone like you just kind of like brush off, and no one you were like super enthusiastic about. Bret Hart, again, one of the greatest wrestlers in history, period. And I just don't know enough about Barry Windham and Sid Vicious / Sid Justice. I obviously know a lot more about, but still does not hold any history compared to Bret Hart. And as much as the Galoob, which I've always classified the Galoob, Sid Vicious has always been my all-time favorite figure. This isn't Galoob. You still gotta look at it as an LJN. And for the first time, I feel like these figures really came up against their first major competitors. I don't want to say goodbye to them, but I'm going to push the Heart Foundation past Barry and Sid, LJN. So Heart Foundation is pushing forward to round 5. Am I heartbroken about that loss? I wanted Sid and Barry to be in the bottom 4. Absolutely. I think that those figures deserve to be semifinalists, if not in the final last 2 standing type of deal. But how can I be mad about pushing these guys into round 5? Again, I don't know how many times I have to repeat. I put these guys together because I thought they would win, because I wanted them to win. I just think that these are figures that finally deserve some recognition to be victors. Every time I've done my favorite LJN tournament, they're like, round 2, round 3 elimination, round 4, round 5 elimination. They really don't go as far in the competition as I feel like they deserve. Bret Hart has yet to make it to the semifinals, and again, how can this be one of my favorite figures and not make it to the semifinals, or be in the last 4 or last 5 standing type of deal? So yeah, I'm glad to see these guys in the 5th round and make it to the last 4. All right, the next battle. So those guys are gone. These are going back in the hat. Next one is going to be the Killer Bees squaring off against the High Flyers. So this one is kind of interesting because you've got 2 Jim Brunzell tag teams squaring off against each other, and I think that's super awesome. The Killer Bees potentially could have been first round eliminations. They only made it through because I didn't think that another Hart Foundation tag team really was necessary in the subsequent following rounds. And I'm glad I was able to push these guys forward because they just didn't make it into round 2 just because. I mean, here we are, round 4, and these guys are still standing strong. 2 awesome figures for LJN, and whether you're looking at them as singles or as a tag team, again, Nasty Boys, Legion of Doom, Steiner Brothers. Oddly enough, all 3 of those tag teams I just mentioned are what I classify as WCW wrestlers. But Demolition, Hart Foundation, Killer Bees. I mean, let's stick with WWF, Strike Force. These are all legitimate, tag teams. So these are tag teams of your childhood, man. I remember Killer Bees. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of history or memories of them. Obviously, I know the names and everything, so that was something. Remco's. Given the fact that the first 2 rounds was, line against line before the merge in round 3, okay, understand that you're going to have at least 1 tag team from each line in round 3. Got it. Once you had the Remcos move on to round 4, you knew you had something special. Here we are now in round 4, and we're still talking about a potential Remco tag team being in the bottom 4. And that is so awesome. For so many years, I've classified Remco as being a copycat toy line. Ripping off the most popular toy lines out there, and even ripping off their own action figures. Who was Remco's most popular character? He-Man, right? So, and what are you making your wrestlers out of? You're making them out of He-Man. Even though you may not approve of, the unnecessary or inaccurate body types, the one thing you can really agree or really appreciate about the figures, at least they are all playable wrestling figures. You don't have like all these crazy movable joints. You can move the arms and legs if you want to, but they're not just flailing up and down like crazy. And they got great positioning for all the type of different moves you want to do. Body slamming, clotheslines, awesome playable figures. You got slaps and you got punches and everything, so you've got everything that you need to do as a wrestling figure. And with the design of the trunks and accessories to boot, these are elite figures. And, they're not, the face-wise, they do a pretty good job, switching out the faces. and try to see how closely. What do you guys think? Try and get a good. You think they did a relatively good job here? I mean, if I didn't know who this was, I don't know if I would ever be able to pick them out, but I mean, it is what it is. You gotta think 40 something years ago, so you don't have this updated 3D printing and stuff that they have in the modern day world, so this is a tough one because my heart says go with the 8-inch rubber figures. That is the team I know much better. That's one I have history with a little bit. And up until I really got into collecting, I really didn't even have the appreciation for Remco that I do today. But nowadays, Remco figures, they've turned into probably my fourth, fifth, maybe sixth favorite toy line. Which you think, okay, six, that's crazy. But with the amount of different collections I have, six really isn't that bad. And I don't think it's that high. So I think it's more like number 4 or something. But I'm going to go with the Remcos. I really like these high flyers. And I think it's going to be really important that we have at least one tag team from every line in the bottom 4. Is it going to work out that way? I don't know. I don't think so, but until we actually pull all the figures up and actually look at them, we'll be able to make that determination at that point. So, being able to move these guys to round 5 and put them in the semifinals, I'm super pleased with that. The High Flyers are going to defeat the Killer Bees, who made it all the way to round 4. Super impressed. Alright, Killer Bees are out and High Flyers are in. Alright, next tag team is going to feature the Bulldogs going against the Mega Maniacs. Alright, so here they are. Alright, so the British Bulldogs going against the Mega Maniacs. The original British Bulldogs are not bad figures. They're all red with the little markings on them. Good looking design. Not crazy about them, but they're okay. The one thing that gets me about these particular figures, and even the size with the Bulldogs being, small, much smaller than like your Paul Orndorff, your Brutus Beefcake, your Greg Valentine, etc. I can live with the fact that they're much smaller figures. No. What is the one thing I always talk about with these particular figures? And it's the whole one arm up pose. If you gave these figures like a Hulk Hogan pose, they would be so much fun and just so enjoyable to use. But because they got these one up poses, it kills the figures for me, and it just doesn't make them enjoyable. And the fact that these made it to round 4, I think the only reason they were able to go this far in this competition is because of the nostalgia that this custom paint job that Robert put on here reflects back on for me for the Davey Boy Smith Series 4 Hasbro paint scheme. I'm very familiar with that British Bulldog color scheme. And Davey Boy Smith to me will always go down as one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. Dynamite Kid, I think, is a true essence of the term high flyer. And when I hear that term, I think, like guys like Jimmy Snuka. I think the Rockers. Even though they're big guys, Legion of Doom flew from the top turnbuckle like crazy. And not your quintessential high flyers, not really, but they soaring through the air just as much as anybody. So Dynamite Kid, an exceptional wrestler, especially for a much smaller guy. These guys, as a tag team, as a duo, as competitors, and the way that they work together, absolutely, they deserve to be as close to the bottom as possible. This is an exceptional tag team, and these figures with this color scheme work so well. They have a legitimate shot of making it to the bottom four. The only problem with this particular battle is the fact that they're going against the Brutus Beefcake prototype as well as the mail-away Hulk Hogan. So when you put the Mega Maniacs Hasbro together, and I've used examples like Hulk Hogan and Horace Grant or something like that. So, and it doesn't have to be Horace Grant. It could be like Tony Kukoc or Ron Harper, Scotty Pippen. Scottie Pippen's, we could use Scottie Pippen. And you put guys like Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant together. That's an example I always go together. You got two guys that are always trying to score 50 points together. You're gonna have those egos clash. When you got guys like Michael Jordan, who is gonna be your 50-point guy, and let's say Scottie Pippen, who's gonna be like your 25 to 30-point guy, it's gonna work a whole lot better because they're not. Scottie Pippen doesn't have to be your guy that's gonna have to score every single point. That's why I think a tag team of like a Brutus Beefcake and Hulk Hogan works so well together. Because Brutus Beefcake can be a good secondary character, and he doesn't have to hold the limelight the way that Hulk Hogan does. Macho Man and Hulk Hogan as a duo are just lights out together. Two absolutely elite wrestlers, but they both want the spotlight, and as a duo, they're going to clash. These characters together undoubtedly make an awesome tag team, and their figures are about as elite as any figures you're going to find in this competition. So, with that being said, can I put over a legitimate tag team with absolutely amazing characters, or the tag team of one character who we already know, Hulk Hogan, my all-time favorite wrestler, and Brutus Beefcake, who's someone I've grew up watching, but again, was never that really flashy guy. No one I didn't want to say I didn't care about, but again, he wasn't anything like super special in my eyes. I'm going to go with the Mega Maniacs. I have to. And no, it's not just because I want to put Hasbro in the next round. I actually do really like the Mega Maniacs better than this version of the British Bulldogs. And so far, it's working out pretty well because so far we do have an LJN, we do have a Remco, and we do have Hasbro in the semifinals. And your last matchup, it's really going to be a tough one. I lost a stand for somebody. Alright. So, Galoob versus LJN. Mega Powers versus one half of Four Horsemen. I run into the same issue here that I ran into with the Heart Foundation versus the Four Horsemen. The only difference that I really allowed the Heart Foundation to move forward is the fact that their version that they squared off against was LJN. I kind of feel like if I had these Galoob against the LJN version, the Galoob was going to win. Why? Because of that nostalgia reason. Because I had the Galoob as a kid. LJN, I love the rubber fact. I mean, I will definitely take the rubber and the 8-inch over the 4-inch hardened version any day. But this is an original. This is what I had. This is what pretty much anyone's going to covet, right? As playable figures, no need to even talk about that. We already know. The Mega Powers. The Mega Powers can join the Heart Foundation and knock off a version of Sid and Barry. I've already said that I thought that this tag team and the Heart Foundation were going to be the last two tag teams standing. I don't know if that's really going to happen. Is it a possibility? Absolutely. If this tag team makes it through this round, who knows what can happen in the semifinals. The overall look and design of these figures are just so good. It's really hard to pass. Scenario: Mega Powers versus Mega Maniacs in the finals. I covet the Mega Powers more than Mega Maniacs, but for the reasons I stated earlier, do I actually choose Mega Powers over Mega Maniacs, even though I feel like the Mega Maniacs mesh well better as a tag team? I didn't know I would do it this early, but I am sticking with the Galoob. I know what you guys are thinking. We have an LJN, we have a Remco, we have an Hasbro. I'm putting Galoob forward just because I want all four lines to have one tag team in the semifinals. I promise you that's not the reason. Otherwise, I could have selected the LJN of these guys to beat the Heart Foundation and Mega Powers, because I already knew who was coming up. I could have selected the Heart Foundation or Mega Powers to defeat these guys. I promise you that's not why I did it. Well, no, because that's, again, still 2 up. It's not official Galoob, but you guys just know what the Sid Vicious figure means to me, and as much as I love these customs, they're, when I look at this, especially the Hulk Hogan, any Series 5 rendition, whether you're looking at original Series 5, red shirt, white shirt, or any custom version, or really pretty much any custom that you see of a Series 3 Macho Man, to me, they will always be more of like commemorative special pieces, because they're not really playable pieces in my eyes. Not anything I would use for enjoyment. So simply something that I want to put on display, look at, and really enjoy and appreciate, and know what those guys meant to me as a kid, and what they still mean to me, 30 plus years later, 35 years later, etc. And these guys were amazing. It really had a fun run. I wanted to see him go further, but making it to the bottom 8, I think in this tournament with 4 different lines going at it, this was a good run. I think being one of the last 5 tag teams standing, yeah, that was a good run. So that is actually that concludes round 4. I am going to stay down here. I am going to film round 5 as well. And depending on how long that video runs, I might do round 6, which is just going to be a one-on-one matchup. And normally in past videos, the semifinals and finals were filmed in the same video. But I don't know, 2 matchups. I might be able to get I should be able to get 3 matchups in one video. I mean, I don't see why not. So round 5 and round 6 might be able to get done in one video. If it's like if it's like a 25-minute video after just two matchups, I'm gonna stop and just break it down into another video to do the last matchup for the finals. So that way I'm not wasting you guys' time with like a 45-minute video. Everybody, thanks again for watching. I really appreciate it, and please let me know who you guys would have chosen in the comments, and I will talk to you in the comments, and see you in the next video. Goodbye, everyone.